Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Conversations with Daron Jenkins. I'm your host, Daron Jenkins. Joining me on today's show, Kay-Ree Torjussen, a composer of both film and television. Thank you for joining the show today.
Thanks for having me.
I was doing my little deep dive into some of the stuff, and I won't say what it is yet. We'll get into it, but me and you have a connection.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, I was like, wait, what? But what I really want to start talking about is your career. So, when did you, like, how old were you when you started into the industry of film?
I guess it was after my master's, so I was about 22-ish.
Wow.
I started scoring stuff when I was in high school originally, but I started professionally when I was about right out of my master's.
Oh, wow.
USC in LA.
What was the impetus behind that? Like was it, because a lot of us filmmakers, we have a movie or an actor or something that kind of triggered that interest in you.
My interest in film and TV, I guess. Well, my dad used to make documentaries. He used to be a TV director. He's retired now, but he used to make documentaries and stuff in Wales. And so I was playing music from a very early age. But when I became a teenager and started buying like early MIDI equipment and stuff, I got the chance to write some little bits for my dad's documentaries, and that kind of planted the bug for me. I really wanted to do it for a living, but I never actually studied it in college. I actually just studied music for my undergrad and my master's, and then got back into scoring to picture after I graduated. Well, I mean, I was doing short films in college. Yeah.
Oh, so documentaries. Have you worked on like like what made, like, why music, and because if your father was in the documentaries, why didn't you choose the documentary life, I guess, or the filmmaker?
Why did
what was
Omega?
Yeah.
Well, originally I think I wanted to be a director like my dad, and then I wanted to be a stunt cameraman because that seemed, because I liked stunts. I loved stunts.
Really?
I realized that all seems far too dangerous. So then I went to brain. I thought brain surgery seems way too complicated and difficult. And then I sort of defaulted to music. And so I was always playing music, and I started composing when I was a teenager, and it just seemed like a natural path for me to pursue a career then. Director was way too hard for me. So.
What instruments did you start out with?
I started playing piano and trumpet from a pretty early age, and then I started getting into synths and keyboards and stuff, and played saxophone for a while. I played a lot of jazz growing up, so kind of jazz is my first love, I guess. But I played orchestras and all the rest of it, and in funk bands and soul bands in the horn sections. And then I just started composing and realized, I wasn't good enough to be to be the next Miles Davis or Wynton Marsalis or anybody. So the next thing was writing music. So,
well, I mean, so I have another podcast called the Tracklist Podcast Show, and on the show we break down films and their soundtracks.
Oh, cool.
And
sounds neat.
So we talk a lot about music. My co-host is actually a musician and a singer songwriter, and I feel like we have a serious appreciation for the skills that it takes to kind of score, and the skills that it takes to put together a score. So when you say you're not the next Miles Davis, but Miles Davis probably wouldn't want to do what you were doing either as well. So
he actually did score a movie, which is really cool.
Which movie was this?
L'ascenseur. Oh, I don't want to try to say the French. It's a Lift to the Scaffold.
Really?
It was a French kind of early, from the 1940s, I think, the late 40s, maybe 48 or something. And he went to Paris. It's a great story. this director wanted him to score the film, and I think he was just putting them off because he was living in Paris at the time. And then I think in the end he was like, okay, I got this time in the studio, so they booked the studio for one night, and he just had the band for one night, and they watched the picture and they improvised the picture, and it's a
Wow.
pretty cool score. And it's like, what a dream way to score a movie! Just have it in the
Yeah.
and just play to the picture. It's really neat, but you don't
I've
get that.
always wanted to go to, I mean, I don't know if you've ever experienced this for yourself, but I remember, so I'm a big Star Wars fan,
Mm,
and I remember when John Williams did the live scoring of Star Wars to like with like a live band orchestra, the whole bit. And I was like, oh my God, that would be so amazing to be in the room for that. I mean, that's just insane. Um,
yeah, I mean, and he did those at Abbey Road in the late 70s, and it's an amazing sound. Um, yeah, I mean those. I mean, he's kind of my idol, really, among
oh,
men.
yeah, he's a good one to follow. I mean, he's done something right. He's done something
He's definitely done a lot of things right.
right. So so you're working on films and television. Um, how do you choose the projects that you work on?
I mean, it's sort of quality. You've got to do the stuff that's really good, and that's not always the highest paying stuff by a long way. Obviously, it's hard to turn down really good paying jobs, so I rarely do that. But in terms of how do you choose, just the quality of the work, and sometimes I'll get a rough cut and I'll see what it's like, and sometimes I'll just be based on a script.
Mm,
It's scripted, so you can get a good sense of how good the story is from the script, obviously. So it's just trying to choose quality, and sometimes it's really hard. Sometimes it's impossible to tell from how good something's going to be. Even from a rough cut, something might look terrible, but you realize, okay, this has got a lot of potential when it's finished. So it's difficult though. It's a tricky one, but I try to. Life's too short to just be doing everything and then not
yeah.
having time for free time or to live your life. But yeah, I try to. The older I get, the more picky I get, I guess, and
Mm,
the more I try to choose quality stuff.
that makes sense. Uh, how, how does I mean, how much of it also comes with, kind of determining the chemistry between yourself and the director?
I mean, that's crucial, especially if there's people you never worked with before, and it's as crucial for them as it is for you. They've got to like you, and they've got to want to vibe with you, and vice versa. So it's that's what the meetings are for. That's what the in-person stuff is for, and it's important. It's weird these days. Once you're hired on a project, especially with people I've worked with before, even though I have a studio in LA, and there's plenty of people are always welcome to come. It's rare that I get directors come to the studio and sit there and I play cues anymore. Everyone's just people around the world, people in different states and different
Right.
countries. It's 80% of the time I'm just uploading files and people are auditioning them and watching them and then giving feedback that way. So it's but that for the first crucial meetings are really important. People meeting people in person is really important. So
I mean, it's, I mean, it's interesting that you can, because I feel like, I mean, if I were a director, for me, I would want to, if I could, obviously you can't do this all the time, but yeah, I would want to come to your studio and I would want to, because I think um, it's almost I don't know, like it's the difference between, to me, it's the difference between a self tape audition and an audition in person.
hmm
Because in person you can kind of see how the people are reacting to what you're reading and how your creative choice. There's a little bit of a nuance to it that you don't otherwise get remotely. You know what I mean?
yeah, and you vibe off someone and you can feel how someone's reacting to the music if you're with them in person, just from just being observant and listening not just listening to what they say but watching them react as they listen.
Yeah.
That's like
Yes.
a big thing, and you don't get that when it's all remote. So I do like it when I have the director in the room. It really helps.
Yeah. What was your first break in the industry? Like, what was your first film that you scored or worked on?
Well, I did a bunch of student shorts at USC, and then actually my first kind of break professionally, I guess, was I needed to get a work visa, and I was finishing my days at USC doing my masters, and I needed some work, so I saw the movie Scream, the Wes Craven movie, and I loved the music. I thought the music was really special, and it was written by Marco Beltrami. So I amazingly just found his address in the directory and sent him my music. And amazingly, he called me and said, "I really like your stuff. Let's stay in touch." And then I invited him to my final concert at USC, and he turned up and said, "Oh, can you start orchestrating for me?" So
Wow.
he started doing these union movies with big orchestras at Fox and Todio and these big studios, and it was amazing. I was writing for the orchestra and translating Marco's cues to the orchestra, and it was an amazing mentorship for me.
Wow, that's amazing. That's. I mean, I often talk to like a lot of up and coming filmmakers, um, and I always say sometimes you just take your shot, and like you don't know what what's going to happen, and the worst anybody's going to say is no, and you just keep moving on,
Or say nothing, or just don't respond.
or say nothing. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, I could have sent out hundreds of these, but I literally sent one to the
Wow.
one I really liked. But I think it wasn't just luck. I realized that his background was similar to mine because I read that he'd studied at Yale. He'd studied classical composition just like I did. I was studying in England and then at USC, and so we kind of had a similar background in sort of classical avant-garde music, contemporary concert music, and then we both had gone into film. So I guess he related to that in my music. He could hear also that I came from a similar background to him, like stylistically, and so maybe that helped, you know. Um,
Yeah.
but I was incredibly lucky. I mean, incredibly lucky, and you know, I don't know if I hadn't got that break, I probably wouldn't have been able to afford to stay in the country, and I probably would have been working in London by now.
That's it. Those are the ways things. It just happens. My I have a story where my first break in the industry was I was selling magazines door to door in LA. And you know I'd always want to be a special effects person. Star Wars my thing. I was like, I just love to do that, build models, the whole bit. But I was selling magazines door to door, and one day I knocked on the door. I think we were in Glendale somewhere, and I knocked on the door of this townhouse, and the first door I knocked on, it was Heather Locklear. And she was like really nice. She bought some magazines. She brought me in. She was like, you're too smart to be doing this. She's like, you should be doing other things. She's like, if you want, she's like, here's my card. Give me a call sometime. Maybe I can help you out with. I was like, okay. I didn't think anything of it. And then the next door I knocked on was this gentleman who, he said almost exactly the same thing, except he at the end of the conversation goes, here's my card. I own a special effects company in LA. If you come to the studio tomorrow, I'll show you around, and if you like it, I'll give you a job. And I was
Well,
just like, what? I
yeah,
mean,
it's amazing what serendipity does, isn't it? Yeah.
crazy.
Did
It's
you ever
it.
call Heather Locklear back?
You know what? The funny thing about that is, I never called her back because but what ended up happening is maybe like a couple years later, I was at a friend's house, and he was having a barbecue, and she shows up, and she remembered me. and we had this comment. She's like, Why didn't you call?" I said, "Because I had gotten this job," and she's like, "Oh, well, as long as you land on your feet." She's like, "You seem like a nice young man." She's like, "I didn't want you to just sell magazines." I was like, so she's very nice.
That's so nice.
Um, what goes into your, like, when, so for a new project, do you have like an approach that you'll take to start the process? Does it differ from, say, something like what you're doing um, Delhi Crime, which is it's not only a film, I mean a TV show. It's a TV show with multiple seasons, and I don't know if there's a difference between, like, when you're coming into a show that has already kind of established itself a little bit.
Hmm. Yeah. So let's see. If it's a feature, then I'll either be hired in pre-production with a script, or in already in post with a rough cut, like I was talking about. And the same goes with a TV show. So with Daily Crime, I was brought in. So someone else had scored season one. There was a different showrunner, and then a new showrunner came in and brought me on board for season two, which was a few years ago. And then we just finished season three now with the same showrunner. So basically, on season three, similar thing happened to season two. I was setting the scripts pretty early, which is great because then I could read them, I could get a sense of the story, and then for this series, because we'd already worked together before, the showrunner knew my music, and I'd worked with him Tanuj before. We knew each other really well, so I basically started writing music um, with the story in mind. So I'd pick characters or write imaginary scenes that are from the script, or not even imaginary scenes, but just like this is some investigation music, or this is kind of more reflective, slower music, and then I would send them to the editors, and they would actually start using them when they cut, which was really great because then when I got the rough cuts or the fine cuts of the picture, they'd already tracked some of my music in. And
Mm.
also season three, they'd already tracked a bunch of my music from season two in. So I already had kind of a skeleton of what the score was going to be. And then I just had to sort of fill in the blanks and tweak and write new cues where they needed them, maybe 50% or less of new stuff. And the rest was stuff they'd already trucked in or stuff from season two. So it's a bit more of a jigsaw when you're doing a TV show like that than you're doing a feature if it's all completely new.
Yeah. Wow. Uh, is there is there a like is there a preference, for like like a film or television for you? I would assume not so much, right?
Not really, because they're just as creative as each other. Especially if I'm hired early, then I've got more time to be inventive and to have new ideas and to experiment, try new stuff. And that could be the case in film or TV. So no, I like I said, I just if it's quality work, then I want to do it, whether it's TV.
How do you think your approach to composing has evolved over the years?
That is a loaded question. I mean, I'd have to differ between composing for the screen or composing concert music because I also um, I used to write a lot of concert music for orchestras and ensembles. These days, not so much, but I'm actually doing something coming up, which I'll talk about in a bit. Uh, in terms of writing for the screen, I think on the practical level, you kind of learn how to work quicker as you get
Yeah,
older, I think, and more efficiently.
yeah,
I guess, your mode of communication gets more efficient. You can understand people a little easier, maybe. The more experience you get, the more you've been doing it, the longer you've been doing it. Um, so that makes things easier. Um, as you get older, you have less. Obviously, everyone knows you have less energy. So I
right.
barely do all nighters anymore. I used to in my as you get older, you sort of
Yeah,
we're doing that. So I try to pace myself more. I try to start early and finish relatively early in the evening. Things like that on the practical side. On the sort of artistic side, um, I don't know if it's changed radically. I mean, especially in my film and TV stuff, I always like to experiment. I guess when there's more of a budget, you get more chance to bring in live players. etc. And I have to worry less about making it sound convincing with fake instruments, etc.
Right.
So there's that. Now with my concert music, that's a whole other thing. That's kind of my own, I guess, language. There's no screen, so the music is very different. It's kind of more involved music because there's nothing to watch with it. It's telling
Right.
its own story, So I think um, my the way I work in writing that kind of music is probably evolved, but I do less of it now. So it's I'm 90% of the time writing film TV music. So that's
Mm.
I guess on a so to summarize my answer, I guess on a practical level, it's gotten easier and gotten more efficient. On an artistic level, I'm always experimenting like I was. I'm always trying new things and having fun with it.
So in experimenting, I think that's one of the things I like to hear from composers is the their ability to experiment with new instruments, new sounds, new. uh, Do you have like something that you've like so I've read on for Delhi that you spent 7 months in India. Was it in India? Like,
Oh, no. So that that was a long time ago. On Delhi Crime. So the show I did in 2022, season two, and then season three was this year. But when I I went to India before college, so I took a
oh,
gap between high school and college, and I spent 7 months in India. I
oh
spent
wow,
5 months teaching in a school in the Himalayas, and then 2 months traveling all around the country.
holy smokes!
So that has nothing to do with Delhi crime, although
Still kind of cool.
it's cool. But I sort of developed a love for Indian music while I was there, so that has definitely informed the way I worked on Delhi crime. And uh,
Interesting.
I did record some instruments and use certain techniques from North Indian classical music in the score. Although the score is actually mostly electronic, kind of synth-based score.
Right, right.
But I recorded a singer and a bansuri, an Indian flute player called Sheila Bringi, who's fantastic. Um, and I manipulated a lot of traditional Indian sounds in the score as well. So my time in India definitely informed my music.
Uh, are, so when you got started and in the industry and in your career, as you've moved further in, uh, were there any like what was the thing that you when you first started? What was the thing that most surprised you that you didn't expect to learn about being a music composer? Like, because I feel like music composers are like this mysterious group that a lot of people who watch movies don't know a lot about. They don't know a lot about. They just know they're creating something in the music. They got something. But I'm wondering if there's anything that surprised you, um, after your first, you know, few projects early on in your career.
About the job, you mean?
Yeah.
I guess one thing was deadlines. We so many times we have to deliver quickly, or deliver a lot of music in a short amount of time. So that was a kind of a wake up call,
Yeah.
because before that, in college, I was writing concert pieces. I would spend a couple of months writing a piece, and I was busy with schoolwork as well. But it wasn't like, okay, you got to turn around an hour of music this week. It was
Right. Right.
that was not the case when you're writing concert music in college. But so that was a big wake up call. Um, being and the challenge of turning around a lot of music very quickly that's also good, that's like that's
Yeah.
interesting and original, answers the picture, and is meeting the deadline. That was the big wake up call for me when I really started working professionally. um
Yeah.
the the writing the music is a lot of the time the easiest part. You know, the hardest part is, you know, interpreting what the director wants, trying to figure out, you know, is this working the picture, getting the technical side, making it sound good, especially on
Right.
trying to make, you know, trying to make an orchestra sound like a real orchestra if you don't have the budget for an orchestra, or when you have an orchestra, getting all that music orchestrated and the parts done, and that's a huge amount of work, um, especially early on when you have tiny budgets. So that practical side is by far the most challenging. I mean, I'd already sort of learned the basics of composition by that time, so that was a big help. Um, so yeah, so production, practical side, the deadlines, all that stuff was an eye opener early on.
So with with the deadlines being what they are,
Mm.
um, how do you get around those moments of creative blocks or
Hmm.
period? You know, how do you how do you get around these periods of low inspiration that might kind of
Yeah,
take away from that?
you know, I find that question more applicable with my concert music because with my concert music, I got no screen to bounce off. It's just coming
Right.
out of a blank slate in a way.
Right.
You know, we're all just sort of, it's kind of like writing a novel. It's like, where do you start? For that is, in terms of the writer's block thing, that's where I probably find it most is like when I have nothing to bounce off of.
Right.
In film and TV, I find, um, obviously, the first part of the process is always the hardest. It's getting those initial sounds and themes and trying to figure out a sound for the film or the show and getting that, especially not only for yourself but then for the director, because not only do you have to think it's good, but then if the director doesn't agree with you, then you've got to go back to the drawing board again, and it's more and more challenging. um, I find in film and TV that, because you have a screen or even a script early on, you've got, you're writing music about something, you know, you're writing music to something. So in a way, what the music about is already done for you. You know, the
Mm,
structure of the music is on the screen. The
gotcha.
structure is what you're following, and so it's incumbent on the composer to figure out what sounds you're going to use, what are the themes, what kind of texture you're going to use to fit this story, to fit this structure. So in a
Hmm.
way, the part of writing abstract music where you don't even have a structure to start with, that's already dealt with film and TV.
Right.
So to answer your question, I find it less challenging with inspiration on film and TV, but it is challenging, especially early on. And I find walking helps a lot. Walking and exercising and swimming. I do a lot of swimming. Um, I find just doing something mundane, getting away out of the studio, and more often than not, ideas come when I'm not thinking about it. And I think
Mm,
artists find this in all disciplines, that ideas come in the most mundane sort of, when you're doing something really mundane like cleaning the house or washing the dishes or, you know, out in the garden or going on a hike. It's when the brain is kind of, I guess, slowed down somehow.
right.
Then that's when ideas tend to come for me.
Mm. You know, it's funny because as you're saying this to me, I started realizing that composers and screenwriters kind of support one another in a lot of ways because so when I write, I like to write to music. I like to have, you know, this ambiance, this thing that kind of helps me guide the character where they're going. And as a composer, you need the words. You want the words, you want the vision to kind of be able to understand where the music should go. So there should be more like working relationship between those two characters, even though it's like in the production timeline, it's a little bit hard to do that.
Right. Yeah, yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, I know a lot of writers love writing with music on, and that's uh, I mean, that's great. Obviously, the music is an inspiration to them. Uh, in terms of writing music early, yeah, I mean, reading a script can be influential. Obviously, seeing picture can be, but what I've also found actually, in in terms of developing up musical ideas, more and more I try to kind of write away from the picture initially, sort of think up sounds, think up themes, maybe do a suite of music that I send to the director and say, hey, what do you think of this? No picture involved, just what do you think of this? Based on what I know about the story, if it's still inspired by the story, it just may not be a visual inspiration because either it's not shot yet or
right.
I don't think it's ready to sculpt a picture yet. And that can be really liberating because you're kind of, you're not bound to the constrictions of the picture in terms of structure, but you're still writing something with a picture in mind. And I think directors seem to like that sometimes as well because it gives them, it sparks their imagination somewhat as well. So
yeah, I would tend to agree to that. Yeah, for sure. Music is so. I mean, it's. Someone said to me, yeah, was it yesterday? Must have been yesterday. Someone was saying to me about like how music helps them kind of like really feel the essence of the scene at that moment in time if it's done right. You can like you'll get goosebumps and you can kind of feel how the tension or the levity or and like, oh yeah, that. I mean, it is, it's very important to the success of the film.
it's important that you choose the right music though when you're writing something. Right?
Yeah, there's that too. Yeah, exactly.
There's something really mellow, or it might, it might not be the appropriate music for this. You got to curate the music really carefully, right?
Yeah, unless you're doing something out of like a little tongue in cheek, like I've seen some films where they've played like pretty happy music while someone's being murdered, that kind of thing. What are there any? I know you mentioned John Williams. Are there any other any composers or musicians or artists that you like draw inspiration from?
Sure, yeah. I mean, in terms of film composers, I love some of the greats. I mean, Bernard Herrmann is a big influence. Korngold. I love Jerry Goldsmith. More recently, I love Johnny Greenwood. His to the Paul Thomas Anderson movie. All his scores, I think, are really great and very original. Alberto Iglesias, I think, is great. He's a Spanish composer. He did Almodovar's movies. Colin Stetson, I think, is really cool. Sax player. He scored Hereditary and a lot of.
Really Hereditary. Oh yeah.
Yeah, so his stuff is great. In terms of film composers, and then in terms of, I mean, I listen to all sorts of so much music. I listen to a lot of contemporary classical music, a lot of jazz, a lot of electronic music. I try to keep my inspiration pretty wide. I actually listen to a lot. I don't listen to a huge amount of film music, mostly because I want to get inspiration from elsewhere.
Right.
Especially when I'm on a project, try not to listen to. I definitely don't listen to any film music when I'm on a project, and I try not to listen to too much other music either because you got to give your ears rest.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's a lot.
Are there any particular instruments or sounds that you find you're using across various projects, like signature items that you might?
Yeah, I in terms of, let's say, for instance, my kind of the horror stuff I've done, experimental stuff. I've done a lot of recording of live instruments, but kind of using their extended techniques and really kind of pushing the envelope as to like how you play the instruments, and then close miking them really closely, and it can be a very, very creepy sound. I did a score called The Canal 10 years ago, and I started doing that, and I've been doing it ever since. And that can be really effective. I love using strings in creative ways. I'm very much influenced by Georges Ligeti. His music is on 2001 Space Odyssey.
Oh, okay.
Kind of music when they're approaching.
Yeah, sure.
So he's a big influence on me. I also love recording found sounds or anything in nature or sound effects, and then manipulating them and trying to make instruments out of them. That's always a challenge. So I love trying to making new instruments and seeing if the director can figure out where the sound came from. And that's always fun. And taking sounds from a movie and turning them into an instrument. So, for instance, I scored a movie called Night Watch, which is a Danish film a couple of years ago. So it was the sequel. There was a film back in the 90s called Night Watch, the original Danish movie with Nikolaj Coster-Waldau from Game of Thrones. So he made the original movie. Ole Bornedal was the director, and then they did a remake. Miramax Dimension did a remake with Ewan McGregor a couple of years later. I think in like '96 or something like that.
I might have
Anyway,
seen that. Yeah.
so then 30 years later, Ole, the director, decides to make a sequel to the Danish version. So I scored the sequel. It's called Night Watch: Demons Are Forever. So I did that. That was really fun. And there's a part in the movie which uses moths. I mean, they're filming moths in the movie, so that like there's this creepy moths, and it's a reference to the original movie. I thought, wouldn't it be cool to use moths to create a sound? So I recorded some moths, and you know, when they flap their wings really fast, you get a certain hum at a certain frequency. So I did a lot of moth recording and manipulated it, and I realized it could be a great sound in the score. But then if you slow it down, you start getting a beat out of the wing beat. So it goes from pretty effective. Now, I don't even think I told Ola where the sound came from. I think I told him afterwards, and he loved it. But the point is, anything that you can get from the movie that inspires you to make new sounds, or you know, to inspire the music, I think it's always fun to do that.
Yeah, I remember growing up and watching. I forget what it was, some kind of documentary on filmmaking, and they were talking about like they would have like these field recorders, and they would go out and record nature, or like maybe they would put it against the rail on on a train to get some of the metal on metal grind that you hear. And I always thought, wow, that would be such a fun job to do. I'm not good. I'm not a good musician, so that didn't work out so well.
It's funny, you know, because it's a thing that there was a composer called Pierre Schaeffer, a French composer in the 1950s, and he kind of invented this concept of musique concrète, so found sound music, not dissimilar to what collage artists were doing in Paris in the early part of the century. But this idea of musique concrète in the 50s and 60s was really obvious. I mean, you record it on big tape recorders, and you go into the studio and then you manipulate it, but you can only do so much with with magnetic tape and old gear.
Right.
These days,
Yeah.
you can literally get any sound and create a pitch from it and create a rhythm from it. So it's kind of the world's your oyster in terms of sounds now. And there's really no limits as to what you do with sound, just like there isn't with visuals, I guess. But
Yeah.
it sort of opens up a whole world of sounds that anything goes, and
Yeah.
and the cool thing is that different to using synths, these are acoustic phenomena that you're recording. So there's stuff in a sound which, when you manipulate it with plugins and gear, you start hearing things that you didn't hear originally. In the studio, you put them on big speakers and you start turning up certain frequencies or compressing it, and you start hearing these parts of a sound you never heard before. And you can then turn them into instruments, which I find endlessly fun.
Oh, it must be fun. I mean, because even music artists do it. I was watching the Billie Eilish on a talk show. She was talking about how they recorded the crossing signal from like a light in Japan. There's a certain signal sound that it makes, and they use that as one of the beats for one of her Grammy albums. I was just like, that is so cool, man. I mean, to even have to just, I mean, like you said, the world is your oyster,
Yeah. In Delhi Crime, the show I just did, some of the earlier tracks I wrote without picture, Tanuj, the director, wanted inspiration. So he wanted inspiration. Like, he was scouting locations and thought, oh, wouldn't it be great to start using sirens in the score? So I just used a ton of like siren sound effects, ambulances and police cars and things, and they all have a pitch. And so I try to build tracks around a siren sound, which was really fun because and then in the recent, that was last season. In this season, it was hospital sounds. A lot of scenes in a hospital, so using like EKG machines and hospital sound effects as the starting point of a track. So it kind of creates this pulse, this groove, and also has a pitch. So it's the sort of backbone of a track, and that was really really fun.
Uh, is there a genre that you haven't worked on yet that you have thought I'd love to try?
I mean, I haven't done that much sci-fi. I've done a lot of horror.
Right.
I've worked in sci-fi. I orchestrated. I worked on iRobot and Terminator, and with Marco as an orchestrator and writing some additional music on various things. But uh, for my own credit, I've done a lot of horror and I've done a lot of thrillers and done some comedy.
Have you
And
done any westerns at all yet?
I did a short a short film which was a western, which was really fun, called what's it called? The Golden West.
Okay.
It actually won a lot of awards, went around a lot of festivals, and these two directors were great British guys. So I'd love to do I'd love to do a western, a feature western, but I'd also love to do feature sci-fi. Obviously, they're the bigger budget stuff. Kind of done by for
Yeah.
more like me, but yeah, that would be really fun.
I know you said you were listening to a lot of different people. Are there any artists that you are like binging on now currently, or
You know, been listening to a lot of Kurt Vile actually recently.
that's so hilarious. A
Oh,
friend
really?
of mine just said the same thing yesterday.
Oh, who did?
A friend of mine who's a music artist, he's like, I've been starting to listen to a lot of more Kurt Vile stuff for some
Oh,
reason.
right. Yeah, because I never listened to him before. I kind of skipped him in college, and I was never that into the sort of Brechtian stuff and threepenny opera and stuff. But I did hear one of the operas at LA Opera several years ago, and kind of got into it. But I've been listening to a lot of his concert music and a lot of his other stuff, and I'm really starting to appreciate him a lot. And then in terms of other stuff, I was really getting to FKA Twigs a while back. Do you know FKA Twigs?
No.
Oh, really,
I'm
really cool.
writing this down now.
Correct. Stuff is great. Who else? There's a great artist called Leafcutter John, who kind of does electronic music mixed with folk music, which is really
That's interesting.
really out there stuff. It's really neat. I'm really digging that. But I listen to a lot of weird curated radio as well, so it's like tracks here, tracks there. So
So up in the beginning of the show, I mentioned that me and you have a connection. So
right.
I was on your website looking at like some of your credits and stuff, and there was a particular credit in there that I was like, oh, that's interesting. Uh, Undoing.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I worked on that film.
Really? Wow.
I did the marketing.
Oh, no way.
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm good friends with Chris Chanley, and
really?
one of
Oh,
my friends is actually one of the producers. I was just like, that's cool.
who's that? Who's your friend?
Phil Lamb.
Oh, Phil. Okay, yeah. Oh, great. Oh, wow. Yeah, yeah. That was a great project. That was one of the first features I scored actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, 2005. Yeah, it was a
It
long
was a
time.
good. Well, I was going to say it was really good. So
Yeah, it was great. And it was it was a low budget project, but everyone had a great spirit on that film. It was, I think, for a lot of us, it was our first features or one of our first features.
yeah,
I met a lot of cool people during that, and I'm still in touch with them.
yeah,
That's so
yeah.
cool.
I'm still. I actually helped them out with Chris Chan's Silent River.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Cool.
So
Oh, great.
that's so fun. Small world.
Yeah, it's cool, isn't it? Yeah.
Uh,
Good.
do you watch your projects after they're done? Do you watch the films and TV shows, and what's your reaction mostly?
Uh, I it depends. Meaning, if I've just finished it and I've been on it for 6 months or whatever, or 3 months, and it's been 20 hours a day for months and months, I tend to not
Yeah,
because I've just been
you're like,
I've just
okay,
watched
enough.
it, I've had enough. But if it, I'll either watch it 6 months later, or sometimes things don't come out for 6 months or a year, and I obviously like to watch it if it's in the theater because the sound experience is so different.
True.
I definitely try to catch it in the theater. But yeah, I mean, I'll try to watch it once on TV. But I'm usually so sick of my music by then that I don't want to. I need a break from it.
I tend to agree. I don't like watching my stuff, to be honest. I try. There's things that I've done like in like '97 that I literally have never seen. Friends have seen it, family has seen it. I'm just like, nah, I'm good. I'm all right.
You've already moved on, right? Yeah, I kind of feel the same a lot of the time.
If you could compose with or collaborate with one musician or a composer, is there like somebody who you would like?
One musician, huh? Or geez, I'm trying to think. So many.
I'll tell you. I was going to. I don't know if you have you listened to Yeba.
No.
Oh, I highly recommend. She's a music artist, probably in the neo soul genre.
Okay.
But her voice is just like she does things with her voice that shouldn't be allowed. It's just
Right. Right.
ridiculous. And I always thought she would make. She maybe she is doing it. I don't know. She would make a fantastic voice for like a composer to work with on something, man. I mean,
Right,
she
right.
would just
I'll check
add
her
a
out.
level of
How do you spell that?
Yebba.
YEBB. Okay, I'll check her out.
Yeah,
There's one group actually. It's not a single person. It's a thing called the Harry Parch Ensemble. Um,
I don't know
so
them.
Harry Parch was a experimental American composer. He kind of started in the 20s, and I think he died in the 70s. But he basically invented an entire orchestra of instruments. He created his own tonality based on 48 tones to the octave, I think, and created his own instruments, invented everything from scratch. And you can actually hear the Harry Parch instruments. I think there's two collections. There's one in Northern California, and there's one, I think, around Southern California somewhere. Uh, and I've heard the group play live, and they're amazing. And so I thought, oh my God, wouldn't it be amazing to use these instruments in a film score one day?
Oh,
I don't know how on earth you'd convince them to let you use them,
you
or
got to
indeed,
get Christopher Nolan to back it
yeah,
more.
exactly. But that would be a kind of a dream thing to do. I don't know how you could even mock that stuff up on the computer first, but you'd have to invent new synths to even replicate it because you'd have to play it to the director before you record, and so
Right.
it would be a tall order. But that would be really fun. Doing something like that would be really fun.
Sounds like it. I've written all these down. I'm going to be looking them up. I'm a big music fan. So I like all kinds of music. I like discovering new things. Um, is there a piece of advice that you would offer anybody who is looking to break into composing, like something that might help them on their way?
I think the biggest thing would be obviously study music as much as you can, and by study I mean anything. I mean listen a lot, just listen and do it, and do it. And then the second piece of advice would be uh, don't copy other people. Try to be original. Obviously, you copy to learn, and that's all great and important. But if you're going to do something, if you want to get noticed, if you want to do good work, people want to hear originality. So trying to do something new, try to be inventive, I think is really important these days. There's so many people just copying other people. So
I just on my other podcast, we just did the movie Sing Street, which
Mm.
came out in 2016, and there is a line in the movie where they're actually talking about this, where this young band is trying to do covers of Duran Duran, and his the lead singer, his older brother, goes, "You're not going to cover. Don't be a cover band. That's just be original." He's like, "Rock and roll is risk.
Hmm.
If you want to do something, learn not to play. Just have fun with the music first." And I think that's
Yeah, I would also say comfort zones. Always try to do something out of your comfort zone.
mm,
That sparks originality. Pick up an
yeah,
instrument that you've never played before and try to play it and try to record it, or try to write in a style that you've never done before because it
mm.
creatively.
What what's one of the harder instruments that you've played?
Um, I don't play many. I play the trumpet, although I'm a retired trumpet player. I play keyboards and I play bad guitar. So I think guitar is one of the. I can never get the bar chords right. So I guess.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'm always like, the problem with me in the guitar is I'm not fast enough. My fingering on, and my fingers are fat. So there's that.
yeah, it's hard.
It's hard.
I don't put the hours in, so it's like
There's also that. Yes, I don't put the hours in.
I practice. So.
um, what's the best piece of advice that you've received from someone?
About music, about
Could
career,
be about music or life, whichever you'd like.
advice that I've received. I think be yourself. I don't know who told me that. Plenty of people have told me that, but I think that's good advice. Be yourself as an artist, as a person. Be honest to yourself, and I think originality will come out.
Mm. Yeah. Oh, especially these days, I think people need to just be yourself. Don't try to be other people. It just makes, why do I keep doing that? What are you working on now? Like, what's next for you?
So I got a documentary film happening in the new year, and
Nice.
then I'm also currently working on. There's an orchestra in France, in Brittany, in northern France, who are doing this conductor who conducts them. Is a Welsh guy. He knows my work. He's conducted my work before, and he's conducting this orchestra, and he's putting on a film music concert. And they asked me if they'd like to play some of my music. So they're playing two cues of mine from two different movies, and then also a concert piece that I wrote 25 years ago, which all three of which I'm having to reorchestrate for this orchestra because they're written for different forces. So I'm kind of adapting my own music and reorchestrating it for these concerts that are happening in February in France.
Wow.
So that's really fun because it gets me away from the computers and the studio and back to pencil and paper and kind of adapting old music, which is a weird experience actually coming back to a piece from 25 years ago. That's that doesn't happen very often, but it's quite a challenge.
that's amazing, man.
Thanks. It's fun.
Um, where can people keep up with what you're doing?
So I have a website. My first name Kay-Ree.com. That's CEIRI.com. And there's a news page on there. I'm also on I'm on Instagram and Facebook. I'm not on TikTok. Don't plan to. There's too many hours in the day to do everything.
Yeah, you can't be everywhere, right?
Facebook and LinkedIn, and that's enough. So
Or I'll make sure to put the your Instagram in the in the
great.
episode comments. So,
Thanks very much.
well, this was fun, man. I'm looking forward to seeing what else you do. Um, hopefully, maybe who knows? Maybe hopefully you'll do something else with Chris at some point down the road.
Yeah,
I
I'd
know,
love to. And it's been a while since I've seen Chris, but he's a great guy and we're still friends. So
I think he's
yeah,
working on something now. Actually, I don't
yeah,
know
I heard
what
he
it
was.
is.
Yeah,
So,
cool.
well, this was great.
Yeah,
You're welcome to come back next time if you're doing something new.
I'd love to.
Hey, animation. Are you going to do any animation?
Yeah, so I've done a lot of animation over the years. I did 104 episodes of this series for called Dive Ollie Dive. It's like a kids, kind of like
Wow.
Finding Nemo, little submarines under the sea. That was really fun. But I haven't done any in a while, so I'd love to do some. But I'd kind of been more in the film, TV, kind of scripted, uh, non-animated realm. But yeah, I'd love to.
Well, I I'm going to, I don't want to toot my own horn, but this podcast has been very good about good for people connecting to other opportunities and stuff. So you never know.
Great. Okay. Well, thank you. And if you're ever in LA, let me drop me a line. And
Absolutely. I got to get out there. I haven't been there in a while. So
yeah, that'd be great.
this was great. Thank you so much for being on the show
Of
today.
course. Thanks for having me.
And thanks to Planet X for having hosting the podcast. You can find me on social media at Daron Jenkins, and follow the podcast on all of the platforms, including Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, Pandora. You name it, we're there. Until next time, stay safe, everybody, and we'll see you on the other side. Push.